Hi there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Abhijit Bhaduri. I am the author of this book that you see behind me. It's called Career 3.0, which is really talking about all the changes that are happening in careers, driven partly by artificial intelligence. Of course, everybody knows that. There is stuff that is happening because of changes in demography. There are changes that are happening in the environment, climate. That's a big shift. There are, of course, immigration laws, political systems, regulations. There's so much more. And today, my guest actually is going to be talking about some of these things. I work as a coach. I work as a person who helps organizations and individuals develop their skilling strategy and upskill themselves, because we are entering the skills economy and this is where all the action is going to be. So having the right kind of skills is going to be very important, because all of us are going to be living to be close to 100 years. That means we've added 30 more years to the working life, which fundamentally means that we have to think about the skills that we bring to the table in order to remain relevant. Now, when I thought about skilling, there was one person I really wanted to have you meet. What is interesting is this person actually wanted to be a cricketer. And when that didn't quite work out, wanted to be an investigative journalist. And as far as her passion is concerned, did I give that away? I said her. She actually loved riding the motorbike and going all over the place. What is this person doing today? Well, she founded a company called Team Lease, which really hit more than $1 billion in revenue. And I want to introduce to you Rituparna Chakraborty, co-founder of Team Lease. Was that an accurate introduction, Ritu?
Yeah, you made it sound really good. I mean, I didn't realize all that happened in my life.
Which of these are you most embarrassed about and which are you most proud about? Or are you proud about everything?
No, yeah, I'm not embarrassed of either one of those choices. I guess, unfortunate and unlucky, some of those wishes and passions didn't really pan out the way I thought it would. But I think I learned from each of those. So I still got to play cricket. I still play on and off, but of course not representing India. I don't think I became an investigative journalist in any form, but I came close to being a columnist to some extent, and biking I resumed again after 25 years.
When you said you wanted to be an investigative journalist, what was the driving motivation? What do you want to really dig deep into and find out?
Maybe I was influenced a lot by what was happening in the environment, the political, economic scenario. I probably was hearing the word corruption quite a bit popping up here and there. And there was some role modeling happening, I guess somewhere subconsciously, because I was seeing some articles which were being written, which were like high impact. And then I think there was some, if I'm not mistaken, some television series also, which probably I was seeing, which actually were talking about how intense it could be to become an investigative journalist, the risk and challenges. And for me, adventure always had a thing. And side by side, I think I love writing. I think, or being able to tell a story which is factual yet compelling, which moves. I think all of it put together somewhere, maybe. I don't know whether I put much thought to it at that time, but this is what I can guess.
So when you were growing up, what kind of a childhood was this? Did you live in one city? Did you grow up in one city? Or did you live all over the place?
So my father is a general surgeon. So he was associated with this company called Hindustan Fertilizer Corporation in a small town called Durgapur. It's an industrial town. So I actually didn't move much. Dad was associated as a chief medical officer, so he was there, posted. And I went to the only convent school, and of course, those days, a highly reputed one called Carmel Convent. For boys, it was Xavier's. For girls, it was Carmel. So I went to Carmel. I thought I'd got a great education. A lot of what I am, probably my values, probably comes from, of course, my parents. Yeah, not much movement. It was a very quiet life in Durgapur. Kids had only two things, by the way. Kids could do, if you're a child, you have only two options, which is either become an engineer or become a doctor. And if you want to become anything else, pretty much you are deemed useless. So you were surrounded by engineers and doctors all the time, all uncles that I were like seeing around, they're doctors or engineers. That's how life was, very quiet. And in amidst all of this, of someone like me, I mean, I was seeking adventure at every nook and corner in my ways. many of the templates that were created for us, social templates, I just were not agreeable with most of them. And because of some of my actions thereon, I even earned the tag of being, you would understand, Abhijit, Opposhanskritik, made often, very often, because of some of my choices. But such was life. It was fun.
So somebody who defies the cultural norms, that's the loose
Yes.
translation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic. Who were some of the authors that you read?
Satyajit Ray, I think, clearly has had a deep influence from childhood. I think it was beyond my age, but I did try reading some other authors, which were like, at those points, kids were not allowed to. But I think if I were to call one person, because of how simplistically he wrote, I think what inspired me about Satyajit Ray's style of writing is that in comparison to a lot of other authors, whether it's in English or in Bengali, who would love to throw a lot of these big words, what I thought Mr. Ray did was he used such easy, yet he could intricately, like he was for me the wordsmith. He used simple words to create magic where the entire story is playing in your mind, right? I think, yes, he's one of the authors in childhood, I would say. And of course, Enid Blyton, why not? I know today's kids don't. When I was growing up, my entire life was surrounded, it might sound right now, but I don't know what I would have done without Enid Blyton those days. So every series that was written by Enid Blyton, I think I've read it. And I wish sometimes my daughters and today's children and kids read them also. Like, having those images of a brook in UK where you're going for a picnic in one corner with a picnic basket, scones and creams. Those picturizations, those days we never knew all of this. Through books, I traveled. So,
Yeah, I think, the way you put it is that it's very easy to live multiple lives, when you read books. And that's one of the big things about what Satyajit Ray also did, when I think about the influence he had on my worldview, I read a lot of it as well. Across generations, I think, when I think about my first book was, stuff that his father had written and his grandfather had written. There was things that I read. And then, of course, I got fascinated by his art. He used to edit this magazine called Sandesh, and I used to sort of just get fascinated, watch the cover of each issue of Sandesh with great admiration of how he did the typography or the kind of choice of colors and everything. This was really the fanboy kind of description that you will see.
Then, of course, I was a big comic fan also, Abhijit, if I may add. I'm big comics. Like, I have, even now, I have all the entire Tintin collection, for example. So for me, Hertz, Tintin, it's epic. I've read Indrojal comics, you name it. I was one of those rare people who had a subscription of Indrojal. So whether it's Phantom, Indian Phantom, Bahadur, Flash Gordon, you name it. So Archie, so I had no specific genre. And the added thing was my grandfather my maternal grandfather was actually the first newspaper distribution of the entire Assam territory. And Assam was much bigger than what it is today. And in Tinsukia, he had this large bookstore. So my love for reading actually started from that bookstore. So whenever I would visit, from morning, I would just accompany my Masi or my Mama, and I would just sit. And that entire thing became my world. I think that habit for reading just started there somehow.
I want to sort of move to your days in college when you were trying to figure out what you want to pursue by way of a career. And I know that you did economics and you did math and statistics with it and at BHU. What were you thinking of doing after that? What was it going to prepare you to do? Or did you have a clear view of what career meant for you?
So like I said, I was just going through that phase. Sometimes a cricketer, sometimes an investigative journalist. And then, of course, socially, both of them those days were probably unacceptable. And I couldn't have pursued either one of them. So somewhere I was picking up a couple of feedback, which is feedback upon people appreciating my organization skills, people appreciating my leadership skills, people appreciating how I can manage a bunch of extremely diverse, sometimes eccentric people and still make them do stuff, right?
What kind? Give me an
Yeah, I
example of.
think I'll give you an example. So suddenly, like this was like I was about to get into college. I was in 11th and 12th when my mom one day just came and said, "Listen, the entire cultural program, because everyone was getting tad bored with the Dugamja programs because it was always about." I mean, with due regards to Rabindra Sangeet, your entire 4 days can't just be Rabindra Sangeet, and people were obviously. So then she said, we have decided it's not, the onus is on you, no interference from the adults. You will have to plan every day what's going to happen. And I was really young. Still, I think I said, okay, fine, it's a great opportunity. I myself have been complaining about how boring Durga Puja is. So let's do it. So I went around essentially then mobilizing my friends, the girls, the boys, kids. And I think I kind of took charge of those 4 days. And it became now, I mean, our Paran Pujo or our club's Pujo became like talked about the entire Durgapur city. So then she made a change completely about how programs can be. So I think some small stuff like that happened. And we don't know how you manage these kind of crazy, unruly kids and still make them do something. In college, I had experienced Sindai. I'm sure you're aware the Sindai used to happen once upon a time in university. And it's a crisis point, right? Then you suddenly, proctor comes in and says you have to vacate, right? So you can't take much. So entire lockdown of the university. It's a crisis and it's a panic situation. So a lot of people who've left home and come, they don't know what to do. So I think again, sitting together, putting together a team, kind of help everyone first and foremost calm down and be able to figure out who is going to take which train. We didn't have reservations to go back home. But the entire planning, and Banaras is not, one of the safest of places for women. So just to make sure that that's also kind of taken care of, the timing and so on and so forth. There were many other, taking on the institutions kind of issues which were happening in Banaras. And one fine day I realized I've been elected as general secretary because of stuff that I was probably doing. And then I also became the president of the final year, all by election. My father didn't want me to. He says, you're not paying attention to studies. I went home so that they don't vote for me or they don't select me. But then I come back and I realized in absentia, I have been voted. So I guess somewhere I started picking up that maybe people have faith in me. They trust me to kind of take on critical projects. They need somebody like me to probably lead. I mean, I never felt I wanted to be a leader, but I always found myself in positions where I had to take charge and get things done. So somewhere I felt maybe being an MBA could be a good thing. Maybe I could manage and run some streets. So maybe that's how it started.
How large is team is? How many employees? You just give me a little bit of a sense of the numbers for the benefit of viewers. I know it's a little more than 1 billion. Is that correct?
Yeah, almost turnover would be in and around that amount. The current top line turnover. I think in terms of headcount, we are 300,000 plus people who are active on the roles right now. So yeah, it's one of the largest probably employers. And I think over the course of since our existence, a little over 2 million lives have been hired and provided a job of dignity through us. And then moved on to better lives and better careers. And that's essentially was the purpose of Team Leads. With Team Leads' purpose and vision, which moved me, somebody who's a small town girl, I see, was putting India to work. And I know how difficult it was for me because after my graduation, I really didn't want to go and do my MBA. I wanted to go and work, any job, just give me any job. And I know how much I struggled to find that any job, right, which has everything, has some decent pay, dignity, everything. So then when I heard that, we're going to try and put India to work, I think we actualized it.
For the benefit of those who don't know or haven't heard of it, what does it do? And where were you working before that? What made the switch?
So what does Team Leads do? Essentially, there are a lot of youth out there who are in precarious jobs. Two kind of situations. Either they don't have a job or they have a job. It could be through a informal contractor or an informal agency. They don't know what their entitlements are, what their basics that they should be provided for. They don't also have access to get a chance to work with some of these large organizations because from the background maybe that they come from, right? I mean, I've noticed some of these multinationals, they have very high standards of who they want to hire on their roles, right? But there are many out there. There are lakhs and lakhs of youth who want to get a chance. Just being there at that organization, they learn so much, but they don't know how to do it. So we at Team Leads, what we've been trying to do is for those kind of vulnerable youth, provide them with a platform and access. They can have no experience or maybe as little as 6 months, 1 year experience, even in an informal form of work. And we try and match them based on their skill sets to some of the requirements which are temporary and time-bound in nature. What's the benefit for organizations? Organizations are also trying new ideas. They're trying to look at new territories. They're launching new products. They have projects which are time-bound. And they're seeking flexibility of hiring skilled youth or youth who have the right attitude, but it's going to be for a fixed duration. Some of them actually have the intention of doing contract to hire, which means they will try you out for a fixed duration. And if you're really good, they give you an opportunity to work. Believe it or not, almost 50% of our attrition used to happen on account of being absorbed by the principal employer. So it was working. So that's what Team Leads does. Primarily, that's how we started. Eventually, of course, we realized there is a huge open skilling. There's a huge skill gap because of which when we had 15,000 open positions, tons of applicants, only 3,000 could get hired. And that's largely happening because of the skill mismatch. And that's how Team Leads got into employability, like whether it's in terms of acquiring an institute, training institute, setting up Team Leads Skill University, creating this complete tsunami around apprenticeship around the country where actually employers can create a future talent by employing apprenticeship. So, and of course, then we realize that there are so much inefficiencies in the workplaces, which can be solved through technology, whether it's EdTech, RegTech, HR tech, higher tech solutions, which just improves the overall productivity. So that's what Team Leads does. I was working for Monster, which is a multinational. I was making tons of money. I was the most successful salesperson in Asia Pacific repeatedly and consistently. But honestly, somewhere I was also feeling that with due regards, given that I've named the organization, I somewhere felt maybe as a woman, I might just hit a plateau. I may not grow beyond a certain point. That's when Manish and Ashok, they were talking with this idea of our earlier avatar. I mean, I also were part of India Life. That's how I'm associated with Ashok. We were into payroll administration, benefits administration, and then business eventually got sold to Hewitt, then moved hands thereon. I think we realized that there is a distinct opportunity that was post-liberalization where a lot of multinationals were looking for a contingent human resource solution. They wanted a flexible model, but they wanted to work with someone that they can trust, who is reliable, who is compliant, who can offer services all over the country, because there were a lot of mom and pop shops in specific places. We felt that we had a great opportunity. We had a great opportunity to meet the requirements of these organizations and side by side get 80% of the workforce, which currently are in some form of precarious work or no work, get them into the ecosystem of formal workforce. And this would be the nice conduit which kind of enables that. So that's how I think I got motivated. I felt that, yes, this is something which meets three of my requirements. One, I want to do something which is, of course, fun. Like every day has to be fun. No compromise on that. Secondly, it has to be an economically viable and commercially viable business, not for profit. I'm actually for a great cause, but it's a profitable organization. And third, it has to do well for India. It has to make a difference and impact for India. And I think in Team Peace, I felt that all these three things came together.
When you felt it was actually doing good for India, what were some of those markers that you looked at?
The fact that it was providing employment of dignity to the youth, which those days kind of social, myths and taboos around anything contractual. I remember I was myself trying to provide higher kids for client's requirement. And this guy says, he's unemployed, Abhijit. And he was saying that, no, madam, wo unemployed, but contract job nahi karenge. Like, I'm not going to take up a contractual job because log kya kahenge, society kya kahenge. So I guess one of the things that we did is we made something and temporary work acceptable. And the fact that it has dignity. And we proved it to them, through the kind of choices, practices that we implemented. Fact that they got an employment letter, they got an employment kit. Some of these people I've never seen. They have got an ID card. I mean, you might say these are very simple things, but for those kids, it made a whole lot of difference because they've never seen that recognition before. So I guess the change in their body language, where they felt that they were worthy, that they have a shot at the future, I think was a huge adrenaline rush for me. I used to see it every day. Till recently, when I walk down from the lift or near the staircase or wherever, I can see through the body language of these kids who walk in that who got an offer letter that day, who didn't. It's sad that in spite of what we have done, we've actually only impacted 5% or given jobs to only 5% of the kids who walked into us. But yes, even those 5% would have been zero, to be honest. I think that's the change we managed to do. So that's one good thing. The fact that a solution like this is enabling large multinational to take a bet on India, and I mean, is this the only thing? No, but it's a very important thing. The fact that there is an enabler for flexible talent management for a complex country like India, which is riddled with thousands of regulatory laws, and there's someone who can navigate through all of them for them. It's great for India. So I think, I can list down another 20, but I think these are the two very compelling reasons or where I saw direct impact on India.
In my book, I talk about three kinds of career paths.
Yeah.
Career one is the traditional one where you learn, earn, and retire. You join a job and then you retire from there. You might change employers in between, but fundamentally one skill which is monetized. Career 2.0 is something like what you've done, which is the gig work, the contract work. And for a variety of reasons, it could be because the people are not skilled enough to find employment or they don't have the opportunities. Or it could be because somebody wants to pick up a new skill, somebody wants to move to a different city and is looking to get a head start. Can be multiple reasons. And of course, Career 3.0 is 3 or more skills monetized in 3 or more ecosystems. That's the premise of this. Each one of these actually has a certain kind of a business case. If you see that it's a myth to think that it's only the people in corporate jobs, or public sector, which is, let's say, learn, earn, and retire, a Career 1.0 model. That's actually a myth because you find performers, in the performing art. Sonal Mansingh has been a dancer all her life. That's what she does. And then if you have Lata Mangeshkar, she's been a singer right from the time she was in her teens all the way till the last day when she passed away. So I think most people are, they do stuff like that. Scientists are in that zone. But for a lot of people, a second career or a second sort of gig is an opportunity to really start to grow their skills in a different area altogether. Is that how you see team leads and the way careers are being shaped?
First and foremost, Abhijit, I can't thank you enough for articulating these three types of careers, honestly. So well put. And I was just reflecting that how would I have scored it, let's say 25 years back. 25 years back, maybe almost like 50% of India, maybe a little more, 60% of India felt that it's just career 1.0. And maybe that's all people were thinking at that point. And then maybe a little more alignment with Career 2.0. But Career 3.0 probably was non-existent at that point, right? And people were not thinking, how can you do like 3, 4? How does it even work? And thankfully, in my journey with team leads, I have started witnessing the transition from Career 1.0 as the only thing that's possible to emergence of Career 2.0. And then now Career 2.0 is probably the fattest pie. And that is what my assessment is, whether people admit it or not. And then you are also seeing the tail of Career 3.0 very wonderfully emerging amidst the debate of moonlighting and freelancing and whatnot, right? The way I see myself and the way I see the world around talent also emerging is that eventually Career 1.0, soothsaying almost, is going to disappear. You cannot, given the kind of unpredictability that lays ahead us, given what even COVID taught many of us, right? COVID really taught anyone who thought that I can be unidimensional or I can just present one skill and that's how I can lead successfully a life, was completely challenged, was shattered probably. And hence Career 2.0 and 3.0 is what's going to be the reality. And the more we are able to build ourselves, I feel it's your best career insurance is to be able to have 3-4 skills which you can monetize. The writing is very clearly on the wall right now that there is no other way. Like, thankfully, through Team Leads, given that I've been in the talent landscape, I have seen that transition. And in the next 10 years, you will see the transition where Career 1.0 would be a negligible 10-20% of the representation of enterprise workplaces. It's going to be largely Career 2.0 and 3.0. I mean, time will tell, but that's how I look at it. And it's fantastic, honestly. I'm glad that your book will make people think and realize and accept, most importantly, that it's possible and I should think about it. And I should not have this feeling of entitlement that my employer, by the way, is responsible for my sustenance, my success. And the shift in terms of who manages your career has to come into us. We have to become the central point of how we determine our life to be, especially professional.
So much is changing in that space because people really now, there's been a debate about moonlighting, that, whether a second job or a third job is really being fair. As long as there is no conflict of interest, my personal belief is that it's something which, should be encouraged for the simple reason that it helps people build and be prepared for what is going to come in future, because the organization never guarantees employment. Never does.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Therefore, the person is responsible for managing that employability for themselves. So, if they want to do a second skill and monetize it, we should really get away from the stigma behind that. Because when you monetize it, you're forced to be really good at it. Otherwise, if you're just dabbling in something, nobody takes you seriously. So I think that's one of the first ways in which I think about Career 2.0 being legitimizing the fact that it's for everybody. Because when you think about it, senior directors become directors on the board of multiple companies. That's,
Yes.
a Career 2.0. There is a person who sort of becomes a stand-up comedian at some point of time in their career. They love doing it. I mean, Amit Tandon is a great example of somebody who used to run a IT business, IT firm, has become a stand-up comedian with a very successful show on Netflix and doing great on that. Or you think about people like Devdutt Patnaik, who's, was trained as a doctor, then, started writing about medical practices, and somebody noticed his skill of writing, and then he started to do a course in mythology and then moved on to become India's arguably the best known mythologist.
Absolutely.
So I think these models are right there in front of us. These are opportunities for us to really start thinking, how do we span out a career that is going to last for about 100 years? If you just realize that all of us are going to live to be close to 100, how do you think about your career? Let's assume you start working at 20, 25, whatever be that number, and you have to go on all the way to close to 100. What are ways in which you can stay relevant? Because, you may want to work, but if you don't have the skills to do it, nobody's going to let you work. So, entrepreneurship is going to become important. Working with different skills is going to become important. How have you planned, if you were to really start thinking way forward, a decade, 2 decades ahead, what do you foresee yourself doing? I mean, even if that doesn't happen, but how would you sort of imagine it to be?
It's the first time I'm probably publicly speaking about my stepping down from my role, executive role in Team Leads. But the reason for that was, of course, for me, Team Leads was, in a way, if you look at it, Career 1.0, right? For me, it was Career 1.0, but within me, there I'm somebody who does like dabbling in multiple. I do have multiple interests and have an eagerness to develop additional skill sets. It's very easy today for us as professionals, when you are in a job which is doing great, just make that present continuous for you. That why do you want to disturb the comfort, the stability that comes with something which is going fine? And hence, why do you need to disturb it? But to be honest, I felt that if I don't disrupt myself right now, my next 50 years, if 100 years is what I would live, or the next half of my life, I may end up being very unhappy and also irrelevant somewhere. Somewhere there was this fact that, I had developed a very strong skill set, and doing that job, I had developed multiple skill sets, honestly. So I was just going through your 6 points, and I felt many of them are ticked up already, TVs, thankfully. But the fact that there is a world beyond which I'm not going to tap into this lifetime, of course, I need a break. First and foremost, I like giving this analogy that if you're working out every day in the gym, right, and you're good at it, and you're doing it every day, you're putting in and you don't miss a single day, every day, 100 minutes or whatever it is. But then if you do not give time for recovery to your muscles, the very same skill set, the very same skill on the goodness that you're trying to accrue will go in the reverse direction. What's going to happen? You'll have injuries, you'll have aches, spams, and God knows what else. So I think the same way it is for us in our careers. I think the fact that I needed recovery was just staring on my face, and hence I should do that. And then now is the time for me to take this risk and chance, if that's what people likes to see it as, to explore what else can I do. If somebody asks me, like many people have asked me off late, that what do you want to do? What is it? To be honest, the first answer that comes to my mind is I don't know, and I feel very liberated saying that. The fact that I do not have a presumptuous hypothesis into my future is extremely relaxing right now. Of course, I am doing some of the skills I have, I'm leveraging it. I'm advising some startups who keep reaching out to me in terms of how to scale their business. I'm on various boards. A lot of friends who are starting new startups, they're using me as a sounding board. I'm learning languages. But I think I am very confident, Abhijit, Amit's doing, I'm pursuing. I love art, by the way. I mean, I never got a chance to do that when I was working. And a few of my friends reminded me, you were good with colors. So why don't you just splash something and start doing something? So that's one. I've resumed biking. I'm writing a lot more, which I love doing. I actually do. I have so much problem with my mind is that I have an opinion about every damn thing around, and hence articulating it in a manner which connects. I connect with kids and students and youth very well. So is there a way that I can have meaningful conversations and shape their minds? Looking at the entire horizon, that's an open slate for me. But what I know is that I want to do stuff which leaves an impact, which changes and improves lives, whether it's in India or anywhere else. But the fact that gives me it fulfills me, is that it has to somewhere affect and improve lives in some way or the other. So let's see. I think I have not made any choice yet, but I know it's going to be the next half of my life is going to be, even if I pick up another executive role, Abhijit, I would definitely be a career. Actually, I would love to be Career 3.0, even if there is a certain amount of involvement, and it would be a pre-declared choice. And this is how I want my life to be. Like I've been discussing with you. I mean, I'm being encouraged of late to write a book. You definitely inspire me.
Writing is one of the most rewarding things for me because when you write, one of the things that happens is you get ideas and feedback and suggestions and critiquing and everything from just a huge number of people, which no other way that you can sort of really get that. And that allows you to grow as a person. It's therefore extremely meaningful and fulfilling. So yes, certainly somebody like you needs to sort of really start putting her ideas out there, and maybe as you travel through different parts of the country on your bike to write about what you see are changing aspirations. That's a book that I wish I would write someday. How are these aspirations changing for people? Yeah. What have you noticed? You've seen them, what do people want to do? I mean, you talk to so many people. What are the aspirations?
The best way to see the changing aspirations of India or how India is changing, either way, is to visit our airports. I remember when I used to earlier take on my flights 20 years back. This is a very frivolous way of making a judgment, but I'm telling you, it's a compelling way. How people used to dress in airports, and now you go to airports and how people actually dress, like malls, for example. That's essentially an indicator of the rising aspirations and their ability to even fund the aspiration. I mean, I do believe that every possible economic indicator in India, in spite of many things that's not fixed, have improved. And it is telling and it's showing. So, for example, the person who cooks in my house, that person's daughter will not ever be a cook. She's clear, daughter is clear, and she's working hard to ensure that her daughter essentially has an office job. For example, that's how they define. So I guess India is not going to settle for the life that they currently inhabit or is surrounding them. I think at every point, even if the fact we see so much of mobility still in labor, Abhijit, is an indication that I am not going to make peace with my environment, my circumstances. I'm going to make an effort to change it. So if people in boards are moving from UP, Bihar to the southern states or to the west, is because in spite of the struggle, in spite of not getting used to the weather or the food, there is a distinct increase in income through which they can give themselves and their children a better life. Of course, there are many things. I think I've noticed hunger of youth who are from economically not so uplifted backgrounds is much higher, even in the employment world, like even in our workplaces. People who are born and brought up in the cities have a different sense of entitlement and approach towards work than ones who are coming from smaller towns and cities, because they really want to make a difference. They want to succeed, because they have not seen that and they want a better life. So I guess I feel net of it, India is progressing in the right direction because I see hunger. Like infrastructurally, it's in the pits. So sorry, I don't know who all are watching, but what's like floods happen with just a little bit of rain. Roads are not working. The day work from office gets declared, there is traffic jam everywhere in Bangalore. Bangalore is shining today. Bangalore is like, the average minimum wage keeps increasing. You can't hire anyone in Bangalore less than, if for any job, like any job, hiring anyone less than 26,000 is unthinkable. It's happening because of the hunger and intensity of the people who's taking the city ahead economically. So in spite of the absence of infrastructure. So I guess that's what's happening in India. And I feel that's all aspirational. People want a better life and youth want a better life. And I honestly feel government should not keep up with that aspiration.
Is a government job still the most aspired to role that people want to get started with, or is that a thing of the past? When you think about the smaller cities away from the metros, is that still something that people dream of?
I am noticing that in economically not so uplifted states, government job still is the one. So even if there is one ad, stories from lakhs of people applying to some 10 jobs are true. But that's because they don't have anything better. And that's how they're seeking stability in their lives. I'm not too sure if such an ad, first and foremost, it's been a while since I've seen such an ad, is released in a state of Karnataka. I'm not sure you will see that kind of mayhem of people wanting, it is aspirational if you're looking for job security and stability. But with today's youth, I don't know, I'm not too sure. They feel that there are options for them outside of that. And the fact that you have seen so many employment models emerging in this country, or let me just say livelihood models with the resurgence of gig freelancing and so on and so forth. There are options by which they can maximize their earnings. So even if somebody doesn't want to perpetually be a Swiggy delivery boy or a Uber driver, they know that if I slog for the next 2 years, I can have improved my earning capacity by doing more hours. So I guess not too sure with the government jobs have that equitable sheen across all states. But the states where there is really nothing, no job, even 10 jobs advertised by the government is like a big deal.
I want to spend a little bit of time understanding your passion for apprenticeship, and that's something that you played a very stellar role in shaping the way apprenticeship happens in India. So I think a lot of millions of people will thank you for making that shift happen. Talk to me about what made you pursue that kind of change in the legislation or reform, or talk to me about that and give people a little background about what was the from and to that you changed.
I think the turning point or the push came from the fact that, I had a daily view, or I had a front seat view of the agony and ecstasy of the Indian labor market, where we had those 15,000 odd open positions at any given point of time. And in spite of the massive lineups, we could not close more than 4,000 kids. And that's happening because the kids who we are sending, I used to get worried, but it is a particular problem in India. We were seeing it live, and I'm sure it pans out with every employer in India. For one job role, 100 kids are being interviewed and looked at. And still, sometimes they don't find. And then, if they're lucky, they would find 2, 3 shortlists out of that. That's a huge burden. Like, if you look at it, and if you look at it from a business owner's perspective, it's a huge wastage. And that's all becomes part of your cost of acquisition. So what is going on in India, where there are people believe there's a large population, apparently should yield demographic dividend for us, but it's not. And on the other hand, we have employers who are saying, I'm not finding the right people. So we felt that skilling is one. So one shot at it. And honestly, we didn't conclude on apprenticeship at the first instance. We said, okay, let's just have training institute. There must be a repair problem. These guys just need to put lipstick on the pig and that's it. So let's just do training, finishing school concept. And that's how IIGT acquisition happened. But then what we soon realized is that you can't repair when the preparation itself has been wrong. So in India, the entire education system is not really preparing kids for jobs. They're preparing kids for knowledge maybe, but no one's hiring for knowledge. People are hiring for skills. So I think that's when we said, no, this is a much bigger problem. That's how team-based skill university happened. But then that's solving for the theoretical part. We felt that the best solution would be that when kids come out of 10th or 12th, rather than them choosing the traditional path of going to a college which would churn out another unemployable graduate, because employers don't want to hire that kid because he has no job-ready skills. Why not encourage and in a massified manner, kids to take up an apprenticeship program with organizations where on the job they hone the skills. For employers, it's not a prohibitive cost because you are paying them a stipend, which essentially takes care of their ana jana, rehna, khane ka paisa kind of a thing. And you are creating future, imparting them on the job training and creating a future pipeline. Out of 100 people an organization gives apprenticeship to, if they feel that they have vacancy for 10 of them, they can definitely move them. And honestly, that's the best way to acquire talent. This talent is already marinated in the organization's values and culture and the ever-changing skills at the workplace. But the balance, 90 or Abhijit, is invaluable contribution to the whole country and economy, because those kids are very much in demand. They have become highly employable. Their ability to find that break, which otherwise young freshers don't get, gets much improved. And that's when it occurred to us that India's missing layer in the employment journey ecosystem is the missing apprenticeship layer. Since independence, till recently, India did not have more than 400,000 apprentices. While in a country like Germany, we have 1.52 million. Which is about 15% of their workforce. We are a 490 million workforce and 400,000 apprentices. That essentially tells the story that what's the problem? Why is it we have such a huge skill issue? So that's when we said apprenticeship is the way to go. But legislation has to change for it to become attractive for both employers as well as the Narega was paying more, by the way, than a stipend wage or stipend was for apprenticeship. Had to be changed. So I guess that journey we spent about many years from 2008 to kind of change the narrative around apprenticeship. And subsequently, we've seen changes in regulations. There is improvement. But down the line, we also realized that degree se shaadi hoti hai, Abhijit, in India. So you can't really ignore the degree ecosystem completely. Is there a way by which you can use the apprenticeship credit to set it off as credits to get themselves a degree? That's how the birthing of the concept of degree apprenticeship happened, and that's why we put all our weight behind it. That let's marry the possibility of an apprenticeship program with getting themselves a degree, and let's get universities all across the country to also rally around this to make it happen. It improves the outcome of whatever effort they put in. And of course, there's still things to be sorted out, but I'm sure the team is looking into it. But at least the seeding has been done. People are thinking in this line in this country, and that itself is a lot.
We are coming up towards the end, and I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes asking you about the book Career 3.0. you were one of the earlier readers. You got one of the advanced versions of the book. Which are some of the skills that connected with you? And, and if you didn't like any of them, that's fine too. uh, yeah, I don't want to set it up, tell me two good things kind of a thing. No, I mean, if you didn't like it, that's fine. What are the things that you think that connected with you?
I think the skill that I personally think most people do not give as much. I don't know what it is, whether it's a social thing, but the fact that you have to take responsibility for building a personal brand. I talk about the others also, but I'm choosing to talk about it is that building a personal brand doesn't mean that you are being vain. It is essentially the fact that you're creating an identity for yourself, which is distinct from who your other associations and allegiances are, which means who your employer is, who your spouse is. When you talk about yourself, about the change and the impact that you can create in your environment, it's not something where you're being pompous. And I'm telling you the reason I'm calling it out, because I do know, and I have people in my own ecosystem who thinks that their job on LinkedIn is just to like other people's posts, and everyone else is in LinkedIn who creates content or who are constantly publishing, they're just being vain. It is something as simple as that. I think it's important for us to look beyond our designations and get ourselves identified with what the certain skills, attributes that we bring to the table. That should become essentially our identity, and you have to, that's why, put effort into it. I have seen people when they need a job, suddenly they're looking desperately is when they start moving around LinkedIn. Now, that doesn't create credibility. What's your brand? Why would people want to reach out to you or connect with you? Because it's a give and take world. Like, people feed off each other. And what is it that your brand brings to the table is important. So I think that's one thing which I felt resonated. And your last one, which is how to build a portfolio of skills and careers like a venture capitalist. I think most of us don't think about it. And honestly, this break right now, Abhijit, has compelled me to think and put together that maybe I have it, I've never recognized it, but is it possible for me to now look at skills that I bring to the table, which is maybe not even connected with each other, very disjointed and disconnected, but yet stand alone, they actually are a valuable set of skill sets. So all of the others that you mentioned, definitely, I think goes without saying. But the last one, which I would talk about, is that how to tell stories. Everyone aspires for leadership and being in positions of influence eventually. I feel after a point, it's not your cognitive skill sets, it's your ability to craft and create and share inspiring stories of the present or the stories you want to see being created in the future. If you do not have the ability to communicate and share that, which connects with humans and not bots, then honestly, you will face redundancy after a while. You're not an interesting person to be around with. And I'm not talking about just fat. Of course, you need substance. But what's the point of substance if you don't know how to communicate?
Absolutely. Well, we are coming up to the top of the hour, and thank you so very much, Rituparna. You are a person that I always think that who's done so many things. I have great admiration for the way you built the institution. I have great admiration for the ways in which you've created opportunities for a very large number of people in India. I have the deepest admiration for that. More than that, I think I want to say that, the way you are transforming yourself, despite being so successful, that's a real tough one, because, when you are riding a wave of success, it's so easy to become complacent and just, continue being there. But to actually extricate yourself and rethink possibilities is just one of the most inspirational things. And I think if many people think of you as a role model, this is what they will think of you as a role model for. Thank you so very much for your time and sharing your ideas.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to be here.